Chop chop, are you enjoying the summer chop? In today's video, we'll be going over the most recent Bitcoin price action. Little hint, we moved by $200. We'll be going over the most recent news, and we'll also be talking about where I would potentially consider longing Bitcoin. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Let's jump right into the video. First things first, Bitcoin sitting right at the exact same price, give or take a few $100 as yesterday's video. We can see we're at 107.5K, and today's candle has been relatively red. Now, you can see that we did get rejected at the top of this choppy summer range, which we established not too long ago. And so we'll have to see if there's an opportunity here for us to break out. But for now, it does look like we're really respecting this range as we have done so many times before. Now, the question is, does this mean that with this one rejection over here, there is no chance that Bitcoin can move higher from here? Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. There's always the opportunity for us to grab some liquidity here, but as I've been saying on the channel, I do not think that an aggressive all-time high will happen for Bitcoin anytime soon. And by aggressive, I mean much higher than these highs all the way up here, several thousands of dollars higher. There's of course always the possibility to touch this high during this summer, but for now you can see that we're getting respected here. So I would like to see Bitcoin move a little bit lower before I go ahead and consider a Bitcoin long. Now my target to consider longing Bitcoin, it would be if we were to come back down to this fair value gap and we start consolidating here, that is where I would be considering a Bitcoin long. Now I would consider it ultimately between $104,000 and $102,000 if we're lucky enough to get that kind of opportunity for a perfect swing long setup. But for now, obviously we're nowhere near there. And the stops would of course be below the current low. Now, one thing you need to consider here is that over the course of this summer chop, I do think that Bitcoin will easily find its way back below $100,000 again. So make sure that you're not just blindly bullish here. We trade this range as it comes. And so if we were to target the bottom of this range one last time, say maybe at the end of July, then I do think that it would ultimately break a little bit more aggressively. The reason being, we know that when we tap into a level a certain amount of times, whether that's support or resistance, it tends to follow through. So whether that's breaking to the upside or whether that's breaking to the downside. So if Bitcoin really is on its way down here, I would be expecting that at some point we break down below this range and we actually get some candles below there, because right now you can see that every single time that we made it below there, we just got a wick and then we bounce right back up towards the top of this range. So let's see how this plays out. Right now, as you can see, Bitcoin is literally just a red candle today, but ultimately it's a couple $100 off of where we recorded yesterday's video. So honestly, this is not much of an environment to be trading. Now, what I do want to share with you is because Bitcoin is just chopping around, as we've been discussing at length, Bitcoin dominance goes ahead and trickles on a little bit lower. And so what you want to consider here is altcoins do get a little bit of relief when Bitcoin just continues to chop around. But as I've been saying, my base case here is that once Bitcoin makes its next big move, whether that's a move higher or a move lower, altcoins will likely struggle against Bitcoin. But for now, because Bitcoin has just been sitting between $106,000 to $108,000 for over a week now, it tells me that we are likely to see Bitcoin dominance continue to go a little bit lower before we go ahead and move higher. I wanted to make that clear because I am not calling for a Bitcoin dominance complete capitulation in an altcoin season. I am just calling for a temporary slowdown as Bitcoin continues to consolidate. When we get that next big move, that is when Bitcoin dominance will likely have its next big move. And if we take a look at the fib levels for Bitcoin dominance, we can see that it is really respecting these levels. Let's zoom out here and we take it from the high to the low here, and it shows us that essentially every single time that we get to key milestones within the Fibonacci range, we know that we get some kind of rejections. As you can see here, 0.382. As you can see also here, a wick above the 0.5. The golden pocket, we got a pretty nasty rejection for Bitcoin dominance, and this was indeed when everyone was calling for an altcoin season. Then we went ahead and just bounced on higher, and right now you can see that we are getting rejected right at the 0.786. So let's see what happens. Maybe we come back down and retest this level, but we've seen it time and time again where Bitcoin dominance does drop a little bit only to go ahead and move much higher once Bitcoin makes its next big move. Now, Also, taking a look at Bitcoin, it's still very much the same scenario where we're getting rejected at the value area high. I'm not seeing anything different here, but I just wanted to show you this because it's been a chart that I showed across my previous videos. Right now, it still looks like we're respecting the lower lows and the lower highs. Let's see, can Bitcoin go ahead and get enough power here to trickle on up and then break this high and grab that liquidity? Then we potentially target this high. Or is this going to be like all of the other attempts where we go ahead and just continue to roll over? As I said, below $104,000, at that point is when I would start considering a swing long for Bitcoin as we potentially get a bounce from this fair value gap. I will of course make sure to keep you updated on the channel and mostly in my community when I partake in this trade. And while we're at it, a quick reminder, if you want to know exactly when I execute some of my trades, make sure to click the first link in my description down below, which brings you to my free Telegram community. In there, you'll be able to find a signals group where I post some signals along with these signals that my analysts are posting on a daily basis. Now, back to the Bitcoin chart. Let's actually go over the Bitcoin sphere because this just came out, and this usually means it's a little bit of a topping signal. And if we look at this chart that Killa put out, it shows you exactly what I'm talking about. The last time that Bitcoin was on the Las Vegas sphere, we were right around $70,000. And then shortly after, we had a wick all the way down to 50K. Now, I'm not calling for this massive drop, but usually when you see the Bitcoin marketing machines in full effect, that is when you want to get a little bit worried. And right now, we just got confirmation that Bitcoin is indeed displayed on the Las Vegas sphere once again. So let's see what happens. Pretty epic if you ask me, but not necessarily the best thing for price action. I guess they got to do something to try to increase the price of Bitcoin because this has been a very boring period. As I'm sure you're aware if you've been watching every single video that I've been publishing over the past week and a half. Basically, Bitcoin has just been sitting at the same level. And honestly, in terms of me making content about this, pretty boring. So we'll start exploring some other things. So I did talk about Bitcoin dominance, but because of this slight drop, we can see that coins like Solana and Ethereum are getting a little bit of pumps, around 3%. Nothing to really shout about, but I just thought I would show you this for those of you that are more interested in altcoins. As you know though, my base case is that I am very Bitcoin heavy and I am looking for an opportune moment over the course of this summer where Bitcoin makes maybe a more aggressive low where I would be aggressively buying some altcoins, not just with my Bitcoin, but also with US dollars. I will make sure to keep you updated on when that is. Also, we know that recently Michael Saylor bought some more Bitcoin, around $500 million worth of Bitcoin, and you can see that he just keeps on accumulating with his average price currently sitting right around $71,000 per Bitcoin. I think he should have taken more advantage of buying at lower levels. However, he just keeps on buying. He has very strong conviction despite any dumps that we get. And this is the kind of conviction that only true believers have. As I've said many times on the channel, any profits that I make through trading within my community, I go ahead and continue to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. However, I do have a cash position ready to buy aggressively during the upcoming bear market in 2026. And let's quickly wrap up this video touching on liquidity and news. First of all, we can see that there's a lot of liquidity getting piled up on both sides of Bitcoin, which makes sense because we've just continuously been chopping around. I mean, look at this chop. So you can see a lot of shorts are piling in, but also a lot of longs. However, there are still a little bit more longs in the market than shorts. On the left here, there's around $10.23 billion worth of cumulative long liquidation leverage. And on the right here, we can see that there's just over $9 billion worth of cumulative short liquidation leverage as Bitcoin continues to chop around between these high liquidity zones. We'll have to see how that plays out. Now, quickly over the news before we wrap up this video. The White House actually just came out and said that President Trump called Fed Chair Powell and asked him to lower rates. This has been a reoccurring topic. It's getting pretty annoying. He even actively called for interest rates to cut as low as 1%. He's actively stating that he will be replacing Fed Chair Powell with someone who will immediately cut rates. Meanwhile, stocks are at all-time highs, real estate prices are at all-time highs, US debt is at all-time highs, and crypto, Bitcoin, is not that far off all-time highs. If the new Fed chair actually cuts rates to 1%, we're going to witness perhaps one of the biggest runs of all time in stocks and real estate. There has never been a time in history where the Fed cuts rates to 1% with the stock market and home prices at all-time highs. This you need to remember. In May of 2026, Fed Chair Powell's term will officially come to an end. If rates are going to 1%, Everything at this point should be considered cheap. And I actually agree with this, although I don't think that they will just kick out Jerome Powell until his term ends. A lot of people are speculating on this, but I don't think that this will be the case. And this is also why I think that we will have a prolonged choppy summer. Now, next up, I wanted to also discuss quickly some further developments in terms of the trade deals and some more crypto adoption. First of all, Germany's largest bank group, Sparkson, to launch crypto trading services in 2026. Ultimately, very, very positive. I mean, Germany has become a meme at this point for selling their entire Bitcoin stack. But hey, you have to hop on the train at some point. And also, US and India to announce a new trade deal very soon. So let's see how this plays out. This is ultimately positive, but right now Bitcoin isn't really reacting to anything. We have a red daily candle. We're a couple $100 off where I filmed yesterday's video, and right now it does look like we're getting rejected at the top of this range and also at the value area high. Let's see how this plays out. It has been an extensive period of chopping, and I'm just telling you, you should be prepared for some more chop over the course of the summer. And as we wrap up this video, if you want to trade crypto, remember you have the second link in my description down below, which brings you directly to Bluffin, and you can earn tons of bonuses for trading as you normally would. Whether you're a whale trader or whether you're just a regular trader, no KYC, one of the top exchanges that I've been using over the past few months. And that sums up today's video. Bitcoin just continues to chop around. I cannot repeat myself enough. Hopefully we get some new volatility in this week, especially because Friday will be an off period due to July 4th in the US. So let's see what happens. Maybe Bitcoin will finally stop chopping around and we will get the move that we've been anticipating. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.